What's up everyone, Thralls here once again. I am Necrotic Nick, and I'm going to do some more underrated albums. Continuing on with Thrash, I'm going to go to the late 2000s, well, mid to late 2000s. Late 90s pretty much were kind of a barren wasteland of Thrash for the most part. There were still some solid releases out there, but not really enough that I had, and that surge of Thrash that came in the mid to late 2000s was awesome. So I figured I'd go over some of the underrated gems that came out during that time. So let's get this started. Rumpelstiltskin Grinder, Buried in the Front Yard. This is the debut full-length on Relapse Records from these guys. This is some fun, tongue-in-cheek thrash. I mean, the opening track is called Stealing E.T. It's raw, it's goofy, but these guys are really awesome songwriters on this. I especially love this album. I like their other albums, but this one I always come back to because I think they show off some really cool songwriting dynamics. It's not just super chuggy all the time. There's some really cool lead sections in here, really nice melodies, and a little bit of crossover thrash sprinkled in there too. These guys have been around since 2002, and it has been 8 years since their last album. I believe they shifted over to a different label, possibly Candlelight. But these guys are also in a lot of different bands. All the members have different side projects and such. And I can see where that would get in the way of getting another album out. But if you've never jammed these guys, they're a lot of fun. Definitely check them out. Iron Age, The Sleeping Eye. Now this came out originally in 2009 on TP Records. This was recently reissued by 20 Buck Spin with different album art too, which I think might be arguably a bit better and a little bit more relevant. But this is the original copy that I picked up when it came out, and I absolutely love this album. It's very sludgy, I guess kind of crossover thrash. It kind of reminds me of a balance between High on Fire and a band like Power Trip. Which Power Trip is relevant in this conversation since the drummer is actually a member of this band. But he doesn't play drums, he plays guitars on this. So now that Power Trip is blowing up, I can see where they don't really have time to do more. They only have 2 albums, I believe. Now they are listed as still active, but they haven't put anything out since this album. And it's a shame because this is killer. Their first album's really good too, but this one I think they really just dialed it up and just put out a massively killer album. Definitely check this shit out. It's awesome. Harm, Devil. This is a Norwegian thrash metal band that's been around since 1997. Now this one came out in 2007 or 2008, I believe. I might be off on that. I forgot to write down the exact year. But this is very raw, aggressive thrash, occasionally bordering on death thrash. Kind of similar to a band like Hatesphere, except maybe a little bit less focus on melody. Now these guys seem to take time in between all their releases. Every album seems to be 5 years apart. I can't remember if they put out one 5 years after this one, but the 5 years apart thing might kind of hinder them a little bit in terms of putting out work. And again, I believe that a lot of the members on here are members of other bands, so again, that kind of gets in the way. But it's a little more obscure. It comes out on a small label, Sub-Life Productions, which I think this might be the only release I own on that label. Either way, check it out. It's raw, it's heavy, it's fucking thrash. Violator, Chemical Assault. This Brazilian band formed in 2002, very similar to Sepultura, but there's a lot of Bay Area thrash. So imagine Sepultura's death thrash sound from like Beneath the Remains, Schizophrenia, a little bit of Arise, and then mix that with like Exodus, and you pretty much have their sound. This came out in 2006, and originally came out on a much smaller label, I believe, and then Earache Records picked them up and started distributing them a little bit better. I mostly heard these guys on compilations. There were a lot of thrash compilations that came out along with, you know, new thrash bands during this time, and I found this album, luckily, in a used bin, and it's a solid jam. It's a really good mix between, like, 80s thrash and 90s thrash in terms of the style. They're still listed as active. I don't know if they've released anything more recent, but if you can find this one, definitely pick it up because it's a lot of fun. Avenger of Blood, Death Brigade. This band's from California / Nevada. I believe they moved to Nevada a little bit later. Been around since 2002. This was their second full length, I believe. And it's a really cool mix of thrash metal, speed metal, and black metal. It kind of really has all those elements. Like a little bit more fast, aggressive version of Midnight, or similar to Toxic Holocaust. Now this came out on Heavy Artillery Records, which unfortunately went defunct a number of years ago, and they broke up pretty much right around the same time. They did reunite in 2013, but now they are only a studio-only project. so no touring. So, of course, lack of touring means you're a little bit more obscure. But this is a killer release if you like blackened thrash or just really aggressive thrash metal. This is a solid jam. Check it out. Merciless Death, Evil in the Night. First off, Ed Repka cover. Generally, if it has an Ed Repka cover, I'm going to buy it. This guy's formed in 2003. They're from California, and they play very raw, aggressive, dark thrash, like kind of early Slayer, especially around like Hell Awaits. It really has that sound. Solid three-piece. I got to see these guys in the loft of a record store years ago. Actually, it's probably when this came out, which was in 2007. Now, unfortunately, these guys were also on Heavy Artillery Records, which did fold, and they broke up after that. They did reunite in 2014, and they are still active, though the lineup has changed. I believe Andy Torres, the bassist/vocalist, is the only original member left. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's true. Either way, definitely check this one out. This was a killer debut. If you like your thrash sounding really evil, right here. Incisor Trendshitter. It's a hell of a fucking title. These guys are from Ann Arbor. They formed in 2007, released this in a demo, and then broke up in 2009. This is all instrumental thrash. Kind of borders on groove metal in parts. Very raw, very heavy, very fucking angry. I honestly don't know much about this. They were on Saw Her Ghost Records, and I guess that's based out of Birmingham. And I don't even know if that label exists anymore. So information on this band is really scarce, but this was one really cool release, and if you're looking for a cool instrumental jam that's not all solos and shit, but just riffs, check it out. Mobile Deathcamp, Black Swamp Rising. This band is from my hometown, and features Todd Evans, who at one point was Beefcake the Mighty in Gwar for a number of years. This is just awesome thrash metal, kind of borders on crossover. This was their first album. I actually have all their releases, and I strongly recommend any of them. It's just high energy, fun thrash, and it can really lean from humorous to serious, but the guitar work in here is great. It's very punkish, it's very rowdy, and Todd Evans has great vocals on here. Awesome underground band if you're looking for something that is just really off the beaten path, and from my hometown, Toledo. Definitely check this band out, and if you're from Toledo, there's a good chance you've probably seen them live, just like me. Either way, check them out. Children, Hard Times Hanging at the End of the World. This is a thrash band that formed in 2006 in New York City, and this is their only release. They kind of just disappeared. I know the drummer was at one point in the band Early Man, and this is kind of like progressive thrash. There's a lot of intricate song writing on here. Lots of cool lead work, lots of cool riff work on here. The song Nuclear Bummer, I strongly recommend. That was the one that got me hooked. I picked this up on a whim. It came out on Kamado Records, which I believe is still around, though I don't think they're really known for signing a lot of thrash bands. Initially, when I picked this up, I thought I was getting stoner metal. It really wasn't much of a descriptor. Either that or there was, and I just completely ignored it because this looks kind of like what you'd expect on a stoner metal cover. But what I got was really, really interesting thrash, and again, their only release, so got a little rare gem here. Definitely check these guys out. I really love the songwriting on here. There's a lot of killer hooks. Check it out. Hellmouth, Destroy Everything, Worship Nothing. This came out in 2009 on Ferret Records, which I'm not even sure if that label's around anymore. This is really raw crossover thrash. The guitarist actually plays in Temple of Void, which I just reviewed recently, and those guys write some killer shit, but definitely nothing like this. This band really mixes straight up thrash metal with hardcore really well. Like, it's a really thrashy version of, like, Sick of It All. I really think this album could have benefited by coming out a little bit later. Like, if this came out now during this crossover thrash resurgence, I think it could have blown up. But I think it came out maybe a little bit ahead of its time. But this is solid stuff. I'm actually going to be picking up more of their stuff, so look forward to seeing them in collection updates. But yeah, killer release, underrated as fuck. Alright, well that knocks out another one of these. First off, I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you. We did hit our 1,000 sub mark, and it seems we're getting a litany of subs now, so definitely feel the need to crank out more material for you guys because you guys made this all possible, so thank you very much. And of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, definitely subscribe because we got a whole bunch of stuff coming your way. Catch you guys later.